0506 night, a Sabres win over the Flyers that was really weird, and a game against Montreal, all ahead on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into this Thursday edition of the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you listen to your podcast. You can watch our show on YouTube. If you are watching, look right bottom right corner, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to be in our Locked On Sabres Everydayers Club, our Discord, our ad-free versions of the show, head over to lockedonsabres.supercast.com and you can sign up there. Sneaky Joe DiBiase here on a game day. We're going to talk Montreal a little bit later on today's show. We are also going to talk about the win that the Sabres had last night, and there was some uniqueness to that win to get to, and also a very nostalgic night that I am as excited for as any game this season to be in the arena. It is 05-06 reunion night. Cannot wait. If you missed on WGR Sports Radio 550 this morning, me and Jeremy White talked with JP Dumont, and that was a really good conversation that we had with him. Memories coming up on, his goal, Game 3 against Ottawa. He also was in the best seat in the house for the Brian Campbell, RJ Umberger hit. If you watch that clip back, and I know there's going to be a lot of those clips passed along on social media and on YouTube in the next 12 hours, or if you're going to the game, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of it too. And the Campbell hit, what you might not see if you don't see the extended clip that even just, extends out like 10 seconds before the hit actually happens, Dumont very nearly scores. Like, the puck is backdoor. Briere had thrown it out in front. Robert Esch is way out of position, and he almost put it in the back of the net. Is it okay if I say I'm glad he didn't score? Because they won anyway, and we wouldn't have had the Campbell hit, which I believe and I think is undisputed as the greatest hockey hit in NHL history. Am I biased? Sure, but find me a better hit than Brian Campbell on RJ Umberger. So many great memories. We will, of course, get to the win, and we will get to all of it today on the Locked On Sabres podcast. I think if you are really feeling that season today, and even, if you're a young enough fan where you don't remember it. I mean, I work with two guys at WGR, Joe Kelly and Owen Parker, our producers, who are young enough that they don't really remember it. Am I the old guy now? They were 4 when that season was happening, 3-4 years old. So that's not really in their wheelhouse. But that, to me, is the greatest season in Buffalo Sabres history. Again, I'm biased because I'm not there for 75 and I'm very young for 99 and I don't really remember it. So, sure, I'm going to say 06. You say 75, totally reasonable. You say 99, totally reasonable. But I think saying 06 is the best season in franchise history is also reasonable. I know they did not make the finals, but it is a unanimous opinion. They should have. At least in this, area. It is unanimous, except for maybe Kevin Adams, who's probably still living locally. And is Eric Stahl still working in the organization? Be a great day to learn that Eric Stahl is no longer an advisor for the Buffalo Sabres. Because if he's still working in the organization on 05-06 night, that's kind of gross. But they should have made it. We all know the story of the defenseman in Carolina, and I don't really want to get too much into the Hurricane series on this show because, we're thinking about the positive memories of that year. And before I even get into some of my memories, shout out to the Sabres. I said this morning on WGR. I think they deserve a lot of credit for putting this thing together, and I expect them to execute it very well. They've done a great job with some of these theme nights, some of the most important ones, right? Like RJ night and Ryan Miller night, all of these ones that you have really seen in recent years. They've done a great job with. So I am interested, though, how long a ceremony we're going to get. I'm going to be in the stands, but they're telling you just be in your seat by 7. I don't know. I was expecting 6:45. I didn't think we were going to get an hour-long ceremony. RJ night maybe started at 6 or 6:30. I wasn't thinking that, but I thought, they'd carve out 15 minutes or so. Really, there's only 2 things I need. There's only 2 things I really need tonight because I don't need speeches, maybe some intros. What I want to see tonight, give me a great well executed montage on the giant video board for everybody to take in together, and then introduce the players one by one. That's it. That's all I need. Just don't do it as a group. Introduce them one-on-one. Because I said this on Sal Capaccio's podcast last night, that team, one of the special things about it was everybody had a favorite player. Everyone had a different favorite player too, except for, some people, were grouped together. I had a lot of friends that were Finnegan fans like I was. That was my favorite player. I have buddies that were huge Jochen Hesch fans or giant Mike Briere fans. My brother was a giant Derek Roy / Marty Baron fan. I had a friend who was an insane Brain Campbell fan. All the way down the list. Were there Taylor Pyatt fans out there? Probably, right? Were there Tallinder guys? Definitely. Ludman, even. Remember practicing his backhand flip out of the zone when I was a kid playing hockey. Everybody on that team was well-liked. I don't know if there was a single player that really wasn't. Everybody had a favorite, and everybody kind of loved everyone on the team. 15, 16, 17 guys that you look back and go, yeah, Connolly. Yeah, love some of the moments you remember from him. The forehand, backhand in the shootout, or the one-timer on the power play, or Numanen, just steady, and he's out there, for some big goals. And, veteran guy. How about Tallinder? Tallinder going coast to coast, or how about it when he scores 30 seconds in against Ottawa in the playoffs? I believe that would have been in Game 5 that he does that. Roy was feisty in 06. He kind of changed over the years. He didn't stay that way, but he was like a rat type, young, I'm going to be in your face. He punched Eric Stahl in the face in the Carolina series. Roy at that time, right? Like, he scored a goal, I believe, very early in a game against Ottawa. He also, by the way, like everyone remembers, and we can just I'll just roll here into some memories. Game 1, Sabres and Senators in 2006 is remembered, and I have even said it's the greatest playoff game I have ever seen, at least by a Buffalo Sabre. Tim Connolly in that game. Greatest playoff game by a Sabre ever? Maybe. He scores with a minute to go to tie the game before that jerk, Brian Smolinski, behind the net with that stupid smug on his face after he scores to take the lead back with under 30 seconds to play. Every time I see that clip, it drives me nuts. But only to know that Connolly, who had just scored a second before that, is going to come right back down, and he is going to tie the game again with just about a dozen seconds remaining, or give or take that. And then they go to overtime, and Chris Drury scores in the first shift of overtime. 7-6, first game of a series. You're a big underdog. It's a magical season. I mean, that game's almost unbeatable. But there are a lot of classics in that series and in that playoffs. I mean, the Philly-Ottawa series, those 3-4 weeks of hockey, they've never been top for me. Not in hockey and not really in sports, in my own fandom. And I'm not sure they ever will be. They win the cup someday, sure, then yes. But it's going to be tough to beat that month where they just flew by Philadelphia. It's kind of amazing that series went to 6 games because it just felt like the Sabres rocked them. Game 2, where they went 8-2 and a million goals in the first period. They drive Robert Esch so nuts that he is at center ice, chasing around Sabres, trying to fight somebody because he's so mad at himself for allowing 4 goals, and he's losing his mind in front of everybody. All the RJ calls, of course, from those playoff runs. It was just an insanely great season. The expectations being so low and clearing those made it great. The style of play was there. They were an offensive, skilled team. It was just an amazing year. They should have won the cup. They should have won the Stanley Cup, and they gave us a million great moments to look back on. And I didn't even say the thing I was going to give the Sabres credit for, because again, it's just 05-06, and just start rolling and never stop. The thing I want to give the Sabres credit for, this is not a cup-winning team. They didn't win the cup. This is not a team that even has a banner up in the rafters. They didn't win the division. They didn't win the conference. I mean, they should have won the final 2. They should have won the conference, and they should have won the Stanley Cup. But there's no banner up there. So really, they didn't have to have this night. They didn't have to. Some other teams probably wouldn't. But I'm glad and appreciate the Sabres had the recognition and had the awareness of what that team means to this fan base, and that team is as beloved as any Sabre team right now that you could put in front of the fans. 99 finals, like, again, a lot of fans my generation are too young for that. This team brings in more people. It is as beloved as any of them. They didn't have to do it, and they did, and they got everyone here, right? Like, it's not an 05-06 reunion where, 6 guys showed up. You got almost full participation, and the guys that aren't here are pretty understandable. I mean, Drury, Briere, and also Mike Briere not being there, they're all general managers in the National Hockey League. And I had heard that Drury had actually even maybe put an effort in to go to this thing. And I had zero expectation he would ever go at all. So even hearing that, we'll see. Like, video messages on the Jumbotron from those guys too, once we arrive at the game. And Ludman's the only one. I don't know. What's he doing? He's not there. He could be climbing Everest for all I know. Does he seem like that type of guy? So no Tony Ludman, not sure there, but everybody else basically that you would expect to be there is there. So that's a great job getting Max Afinogenov to come from Russia, getting Dmitry Kalinin to come from Russia. I don't know where Henrik Tallinder's living these days, but he's a Swedish guy. Maybe you brought him in from overseas. Jochen Hesch works for a team out in Germany, getting him to come out. Just Kodalik, Eastern Europe. I don't know what kind of money it cost them and what type of effort it took to put all this together, but it feels like it took a lot, and there have been autograph signings all over. I know that you had Max and Roy that were out doing them. I saw that you're going to have Pominville and Kodalik and others that are out and about doing it today. I mean, just making them available, making it a real event that has kind of spanned a couple of days here. Just massive applause for the Buffalo Sabres for having this night. And by the way, I had said on this show, the one annoying thing to me had been you didn't have this night last night. Playing Philadelphia, Danny Briere, more likely to get him to be in attendance, but very good reasoning for why they didn't do that I didn't realize or didn't think about. Last night was a TNT game, and you don't want that game, that special night, to be on TNT. You want MSG for it so that you can bring it to the people at home as well. And that makes a lot of sense. So Montreal, good enough. I'm hoping there's not a lot of Canadiens fans in the crowd. There usually are a good amount. Maybe this night, this theme, pushed them out a little bit. And I hope so, because it's a big game against the Canadiens. So we'll get to that. But yeah, go back, watch game 1 against Ottawa. Go back, watch game 1 against Philadelphia. All the way to double overtime. The Campbell hit, Briere in overtime. Game 2 against Philadelphia, that's in full. You can find that on the Sabres site and YouTube, I believe. Even that one, just watch the first period. The first period of game 2 against Philadelphia. Watch that. You got some time here. If you're listening, a few hours before the game. Go watch overtime and double overtime of game 1 against Philly. Go watch the first period of game 2 against Philly. Go watch the third period and overtime of game 1 against Ottawa. Third period in game 3 against Ottawa is good. Overtime in Ottawa. Of course, you get the Dumont goal is big. And then game 5, obviously, you could probably watch the final stretch of that right up to the Pominville goal. And you'll get your fill. What a team. One quick question that I had for our Discord people and also on Twitter, if you would like to participate. We'll answer this question tomorrow because I want to get people's feedback before I really dive in on it. If you could have one player from the 05-06 Sabres and take a time machine, pluck them out from 2006 and place them on this Sabres team right now, who would you pick? I think Ryan Miller, Danny Briere, Chris Drury are going to be leaders in the clubhouse. Maybe there's a defense for somebody else. Sabres are so good on the blue line. I'm not sure Brian Campbell makes a lot of sense, but let me know what you think on that, and we'll discuss it a little bit tomorrow. When we come back, looking back on the Sabres win against Philadelphia and why it was a really unique win when we come back. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us are taking a look at the messier parts of how businesses are run and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades that you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable organized, and communicating in one place. You're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone will see the full conversation thread, and you can even keep your existing numbers. In Quo's smart AI tools, they'll automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It is no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNHL. That's quo.com/LockedOnNHL, QUO.com/LockedOnNHL. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Sabres win over the Philadelphia Flyers by a score of 5-2. 14 wins in their last 16 games. They shoot back up to the #1 spot in the wild card position. Also, right now, they are 5th in the Eastern Conference in points percentage. The problem is 3 of the teams above them in points percentage are all in the Atlantic. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow, how every team in the Atlantic, not every team, but the 5 teams at the top won't stop winning. And it's crazy. So we'll get to that a little bit more tomorrow, but standings are looking good. Looking at it today, here on Thursday. The win last night against Philadelphia. So a lot of great things out of this game. I don't even think that the uniqueness I've been talking about, the stat that I dug up about the Sabres, is really even necessarily a bad thing. I just think it's kind of funny that they were able to win this game in the way that we talked a ton about yesterday they haven't been able to do. Yesterday's show, if you missed it, we spent the majority of the show really diving in on the power play and how it's been the worst unit in the league going back about a month. Won for their last 21 going into last night. 26 shots total on those 21 power plays, which is embarrassing. And also giving up a shorthanded goal. So it was 1-1 on 21 power plays was the score. Horrific. And how were they going to rebound from that? We talked about Benson getting involved. We talked about Doan and Zucker's contributions. We talked about moving Tage around, moving Dahlin around. Now, they didn't move anything around with personnel last night, but they did change something, I think, pretty dramatically, and they got immediate results from it. And they went from 1 for their last 21 in the previous 10 games to 2 for 6. 6, a lot of opportunities, but 2 for 6. Good. That's a good night on the power play. And it's a huge reason why they won the hockey game. And in fact, it is the biggest reason why they won the hockey game. The big change they made on the man advantage was a directness right off of the draw to shoot the puck and get it on net. It's almost like they heard me yesterday not say the 1 for 21 stat, but the 26 shots on goal stat in 21 power plays. And they thought, oh, we need to be getting the puck on the net way more than that. And they did. The first power play right off the get-go, they win the draw back, they get it over to Tage, and he shoots the puck. Like within 3 seconds of the power play beginning, we got a puck going to the net. And in very quick order, I mean, we're talking 14 seconds after the penalty was called, Dahlin gets the puck, realizes the Flyers are playing a little bit soft in their structure. So take up the space, drive to the middle, and rip the shot. Take the shot. And that is the type of thing that they have not been doing. They have been very casual with the puck, very comfortable to just pass it around, go from the flank to the point, back to the flank, back to the point, try maybe a pass to the high slot and then back and, just moving the puck around. Not a lot of action around the net. And in this game, it was goal number 1. And it immediately resulted in a goal. Dahlin beating the goaltender clean Vladar and making it 1-0. The later power play goal, similar vibe. Let's get the puck on net. Let's shoot it. And again, you've got the Flyers backing way off on the penalty kill. I mean, this one was actually probably a mistake. The first one was, no, that's just kind of how they're doing it, and you got to be willing to take the space. This was a mistake. This was, I think, 3 Philadelphia Flyers that had all dropped down low in a flat line in front of Daniel Vladar. That's not how a power play should or penalty kill should ever be structured. It's 2-2. It's always 2-2. And they were going 3-1. And that you can't, it's untenable because Dahlin or anybody is going to take that space and rip a shot from point blank range. You can't do that. So you get that little mistake. But again, Dahlin is in that mindset going into this game of we got to be aggressive here. We got to get pucks to the net. And when he sees that space, like there's no hesitation. He grabs it and then he fires it and he beats Vladar again for the second time. And Dahlin could be really key to opening Tage up because if teams have to start fearing his shot, then that is going to only give a little bit more breathing room to Tage Thompson. And, you'd hope Josh Norris, but we got to talk about his injury in a moment here. So 2 power play goals, big part of the story. The crazy stat from yesterday, the Buffalo Sabres at 5-on-5 only generated in this game 8 shots on goal, including 0 in the third period. 8 shots on goal in an entire hockey game at 5-on-5. That is the fewest amount of shots that the Buffalo Sabres have allowed in a game, going all the way back to February of 2009 in a game against Ottawa that they lost 3-1. You got to go back 17 years to find the last time that the Sabres had fewer shots at 5-on-5 than the game we saw last night. But I'm not here to tell you they played a poor game, even though it's 14 total and it's 8 at 5-on-5. It was just a low event style of hockey game. Philly didn't have many. Philly had 17 shots at 5-on-5, and they ended up with 22 in total. So you didn't really get much, even from the Flyers end of things. Just kind of the type of game that it was. And honestly, the Sabres, maybe this is a game where they were going for more quality than quantity. I mean, in the first 2 periods, the Sabres had 8 scoring chances, 8 high danger scoring chances, while Philadelphia had 7. So even though you were losing the shot battle at that point, you had more of the high danger chances. It was a quality over quantity type of game. And you saw that. The Sabres, where did they get their opportunities? Where's the Samuelsson goal? That's a 2-on-1, right? That's a odd man rush going back and a shot from the middle of the ice. Byram, who actually missed the net amazingly. I can't believe he didn't score on this goal. He gets a pass to the center from Jack Quinn. He is behind Vladar. He's got 100% of the net to shoot at. But because he's kind of going cross-body on a backhand, that can be tough. Still bad to not score it. Glad it didn't happen in an important moment. He hits the post. Again, that doesn't even go on the board as a shot on goal. But that's a high-danger chance because, that one should have been like a full expected goal, honestly, from Byram there. And you had others. Tage, he dances into the zone. He's going around people. He goes around Vladar. He's got the net, and he hits the post. Like, you had, there's 2 goals right there that should have been in the back of the net. I think they hit another post a little bit later on. Like, 5-2 could have easily been 7-2, honestly. And that would have been with not many shots. It's just that's what the Sabres were. It's the type of game they played. So I didn't think they played poorly. I thought they played actually pretty well. They had the better of the chances. And the third, the third kind of makes it seem like they played worse than they did from some of those numbers. Because the third, they're up 3 goals and, they're playing pretty conservatively. And we have talked about that being a problem lately. And they did allow it to get to a 2-goal game. But I'm not losing sleep over it. Like, that's kind of how you usually play when you're up by 3 goals in a third period. So that also influenced it. Not a problem, just crazy that they only had 8 shots in an entire game at 5-on-5, and that is the fewest again in 17 years. So a good game. The Dahlin goals, we talked about Samuelsson. How about Jack Quinn? Nice little finish. Him and McLeod and Benson. Benson made a crazy move on the wall. The puck is in the air, and he tipped it while it was in the air, like over his own head, and he went and got it and won a battle. And then McLeod with great vision to spot Quinn out in front, who was uncovered. The Flyers were being real lazy on that play. And Quinn buries it, his 10th of the year. McLeod gets the empty netter. Unselfish play by Tuck there to give it to him. All right, great game. And Luukkonen was awesome. The glove save he makes minutes in. Best save of the year? Top 3, at least, for the Sabres. Lyon might have had one earlier that was also insane. That was on SportsCenter top 10. last night. And Luukkonen, listen, it's another really good game from Luukkonen, and he is starting to string those together. He's impressing me a lot, and I'm not sure if he'll be able to continue it long term. In the past, he's had trouble doing that, but also he hasn't honestly had many stretches in his career that have been this good, right? Like, I can now look over let's call it a 7-game stretch and say he's been dynamite in 6 of them. You had a couple of periods where he let a couple in to let teams back in games, but I would say the loss in Columbus where he allowed 4 was the only bad game he really has had in his last 7 starts. So UPL, he is really showing up as of late. All right, when we come back, a quick look at the matchup against Montreal. It is a big, big game in the standings. We'll talk about it next. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Factor. New year, big goals, and somehow even less time to cook. If you're trying to eat better, but you don't want to spend hours grocery shopping or meal prepping, Factor makes it easy. These are fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without all the work. Factor meals are made with quality, functional ingredients, lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no refined seed oils. Just real food. It fits your goals, whether that's eating healthier, managing calories, or getting more protein. Favorite thing could be the variety. You get over 100 rotating meals every week, including high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean diets. The meals are always fresh, never frozen. They're ready in about 2 minutes. No prep, no stress. Factor also has new Muscle Pro meals. They're perfect when you want something higher in protein to support strength and recovery. It honestly makes sticking to your goals so much easier because the food is already done for you. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50off, and that's with the number 50. So use the code LockedOnNHL50off. Get your 50% off for your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use the code LockedOnNHL50 off. Same as the URL. Make healthy eating easier with Factor. All right, we were wrapping things up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. The Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens on 05-06 night. Couple of things to know about this game. We got to talk about the injury to Josh Norris. It's not good. It's not a good sign that he is again injured. We don't really know a lot about how it happened. He got hurt after the Dahlin power play goal. He was involved in a little bit of a scuffle with Zach Sealer of the Flyers. They had slashed each other back and forth about 10 seconds before the goal. And then after the goal, they go back at it again. You do see Norris get cross-checked in like the hip area. And I wondered if it's a hip injury that you're dealing with. However, he is labeled with an upper body injury. So we don't have an update as of recording right now. He's not on injured reserve. They are calling it an upper body injury. So you just hope it's not the shoulder, right? Pray it's not the shoulder and hope that it is something minor. I did wonder if it was minor because they were up by 3. And did they think like, hey, if he's banged up with something minor and he's had injury problems, we're up by 3. Let's not have him play. Although Lindy never said anything about it being a precaution. He did say the hope is that it's not long-term. So we will wait and be nervous about that because, man, another injury to him would stink. I would expect Noah Ostlund to jump back to center if that were to be the case. And I don't hate that. I mean, he's been great, and he was good again last night, so I'm okay with that. Michael Kesselring has been taken off injured reserve. My guess was that he was going to play tonight, and it does appear that he is going to. If he does, really tough to predict who he would go in for. I would expect Zach Metza to be the guy that comes out. Ty goes the lefty between him and Bryson, and Kesselring's a righty. So Bryson as a lefty with Kesselring as a righty. That would probably be the way they would go if I had to guess. So that's the injury update. Again, lines, we don't really have line rushes. If you want to keep things similar, you keep Krebs with either Kozak or Greenway and then Malenstein on the other wing, and you go Ostlund, Doan, and well, I guess you're gonna need a winger on there. All right. Greenway goes in there. Maybe. Krebs or Greenway go up with Ostlund and Doan. That would be my first guess here, but not sure. Goaltending, we're getting Colton Ellis. We know that because UPL played last night. What about Montreal? And then we'll get to my bet of the night. The Canadiens this year, 26-14-7. They've been playing really well as of late. Been waiting for them to kind of come back to the pack, and they really have not. They've been keeping pace above the Sabres. They are 5 points up. Sabres do have 2 games in hand. It's a big game in the standings. I mean, you want to catch them for the 3rd spot in the Atlantic, or even just want one more team you could track down to make sure you make the playoffs. You got 3 games against them head-to-head. This is the first of them. The Sabres are playing a second of a back-to-back. That's tough. However, they are home, so maybe that's a little bit of an extra advantage. Really tough situation. Playing your backup goalie. You're playing the second of a back-to-back. You're missing Josh Norris. But I think they have what it takes to win this game, and I think they are on par with Montreal. I think these 2 teams are both good. They are both young. They are both fast, and I think they are ready to maybe be mainstays here for the next couple of years. At least you would hope that for the Sabres' sake. So looking at them this year, Nick Suzuki obviously is a big part of what they do. He's centering that top line. Cole Caulfield has been awesome. Yaroslav Koski's been a very good player. And you go down the list, like they've got good depth. Lane Hudson is awesome on that team as well. Now, when it comes to goaltending for the Montreal Canadiens, the starter for tonight is going to be Jacob Fowler. Now, you might be asking yourself, who is Jacob Fowler? Because you might be used to Sam Montembeault being the number 1 guy there. This year, they've had 3 goalies really all play, and Fowler, who is he's a younger guy, 21 years old. He was a draft pick just a couple of years ago. What round was he? He was a 3rd-round pick. 3rd-round pick a couple of years ago. Okay, kind of like Colton Ellis. He's played 9 games in the NHL, 908 save percentage so far this year. And I believe part of that is, which one of their goalies is hurt right now? It is, I guess maybe neither of them are. So they're just going with 3 at the moment. Not really sure what's going on there, but Fowler is going to start. They've had actually, no, you're right. Like the Sabres, they've had a 3-headed goalie rotation. So it actually is very, very comparable to the Sabres. They have 3 guys, one of which is a 3rd-round pick from a couple years ago that is just getting going in the NHL, Fowler and Colton Ellis. So Fowler's number is a little bit better on the year so far this year, but I would kind of consider it a wash, the goalie matchup, looking at the 2 so far. So when I look at all that, very winnable game for the Sabres, but a massive game, and it's not a team to be taken lightly at all. What do I like for anytime goal bet? Now, despite the fact Fowler and Ellis have been both decent so far this year, I'm going with the over in this game. 6.5 goals, plus 100. I think we're going to get some offense in this game. I don't think the Sabres are going to play a low event game like they did yesterday. I think they're going to skate a little bit more. Montreal likes to skate a little bit more. Both teams are capable of doing that. And I'm going to go over 6.5 goals for plus 100 in this game. If you are interested in anytime goal bet, I would probably look at something like Josh Doan, plus 275. He's been playing really well lately. Power play time. He'd be the guy I'd go there, but I like the over a little bit more, so I'll make that my bet of the night. That'll do it for us today here on Locked On Sabres. Enjoy 0506 night. I can't wait. Hoping it's one of the best nights in the arena. They're usually good in these team nights. They won RJ night. They won Ryan Miller night. We'll talk tomorrow here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Get into our Discord if you're not already. Go to lockedonsabres.supercast.com. You can also get access to our ad-free versions of this show wherever you listen. Talk to you tomorrow here in the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network.